Welcome. Today we're talking about how to find the volume of pyramids. Now in our last video, we've worked on finding the volume of a prism. So here were the steps. Number 1, you calculate the area of the base. Number 2, you multiply that by the height or the distance between the bases. And this was the formula we were working with. Now that was prisms. We're working with pyramids today. The idea is similar, but we can't use the exact same formula because it's not the exact same shape. Basically, we need to carve pieces off of our prism to get to a pyramid. So our formula is going to change a little bit. Let's imagine we start with a block of wood. This one is a square prism. But if we're going to shave off some pieces, we're going to try to make a pyramid out of this. Let's cut off a triangular prism from each side. Once we cut those off, we're left with a wedge that has half of the volume of the original prism. Now this is still not quite a pyramid, so let's cut off another piece from the front and the back. Now the shape we're cutting off here is not another triangular prism, this is just a tetrahedron from each side. But when we knock those parts off, we're left with a pyramid that has 1/3 of the volume of the original prism that we've been carving this whole time. So how do we use this? Well, we can use this idea to find the volume of a pyramid. We're going to start by finding the volume of a prism with the same base and height. But then, since our pyramid will have 1/3 of the volume, we're just going to divide by 3. So our formula becomes the base times height from the original prism divided by 3. Let's try it out. Let's find the volume of the pyramid shown below. Here's our formula, and the first thing we're going to try and do is find the area of that square base, just like we did with the prisms. So the area of a square / rectangle is length times width, and remember that capital B represents area of the base. So we'll fill in our numbers, 18 and 18 for our length and our width, and 18 times 18 is 324. So there is our big capital B. Now the next thing we need is the H, we need the height. So we'll use 16. Remember, height of a pyramid goes straight down into the middle. It stays inside, which is nice for us because for volume, we're filling the inside of the shape. So having that height inside is perfect. So 324 as area of the base times 16 for the height over 3. 5,184. We'll go ahead and divide that by 3 to get 1,728. Get our inches cubed on there to make sure our unit is appropriate, and that is our final answer. So when you're given the actual height of the pyramid, that inside height, it's pretty straightforward. You just use your formula, multiply your area of your base times your height, and divide by 3. But watch out. You do need the height of the actual pyramid to find the volume. If you're given the slant height, that outside from the top down to the outside edge, then you'll need to use Pythagorean theorem first. For example, in this pyramid, we're not given the height down the middle of the pyramid, we're given the height down the side, so that's the slant height. What we're going to do is use this Pythagorean theorem from the cross section again. Remember, we used that when we were doing surface area of pyramids, and we were given the alternate height that we didn't actually want. And there's a link to that video up at the top if you need to go back and review that idea. Now, the slant height that they give us is the hypotenuse of our right triangle. The leg that we're going to use, we know, is half of the side of the square. So that's something that we had worked on in that last video. So that bottom side matches up with half of the side of the square. So we know that's going to be 2.5 here. So our Pythagorean theorem work, we'll start with 2.5 squared plus h squared because our two legs are at the bottom of the square and the height. Then the hypotenuse is 8, so that has to go at the end for our c. Let's go ahead and solve this out. So 2.5 squared is 5.0625. 8 squared is 64. We'll subtract the 2.5 squared. We get that h squared equals 58.9375. And we need the square root of both of those because we just want regular old h, and it comes out to 7.5993. Now, your temptation is going to be to round this number right now. Don't do it. We still have things we need to do with this number, so we don't want to round it before we're ready for our final answer. We're going to keep all these decimal places. But now that we have the height of the pyramid, we can actually work on finding volume. So remember, area of the base times the height divided by 3. Now we need to focus on what is the area of the base. So we look at the base. The base here is a square, so we're going to use length times width, 5 times 5. So area of the base is 25. We'll plug those numbers into our volume formula, 25 for area of the base, 7.5993 for the height. Divide that by 3, and we'll get 63.32785. Now that we're ready, we've got our volume, that's what it was asking for. This is going to be our final answer. We can go ahead and round it to our nearest tenth and put our units on there. So final answer, 63.3 cubic centimeters. So to summarize, to find the volume of a pyramid, here are your steps. Calculate the area of the base, multiply that by the height, make sure it's that inside perpendicular to the base height, and divide it by 3. This was the formula that we used, and that should get you through all of your volume of a pyramid problems. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time.